bit of Cabernet Franc with the Cabernet and the Merlots and all that. So, well, being kind of excited about the wine industry, we went ahead and made all these contacts. Well, before we did our math, before you know it, and without doing our math, we found out that like half our grapes that year were Cabernet Franc, and the other half were Merlot and Cabernet. Well, now it's kind of like, well, whoa, you know, I thought you were only supposed to blend like 5 or 6% of the Cabernet Franc into the wines. We have this whole bunch of it. You know, half of our production is Cabernet Franc. So people always told us, they said, well, when you make Cabernet Franc, you know, well, my joke was that Cabernet Franc was kind of the grape that doesn't get a lot of respect either. It's like the Rodney Dangerfield of grapes, you know, and I don't get any respect, you know. But anyhow, and the reason it doesn't is because winemakers, when you ask them, you know, if I was to say to Steve, okay, what kind of barrels do you put your Cabernet Franc in? He might say, in those days, not him of course, but in those days people would say, oh, we just use it for blending, so we just kind of throw it in our old barrels, you know, these old barrels, and then we put it, we were going to blend it anyway, you know. So don't you think that was kind of the mentality back 20 years ago about Cab Franc? I mean, people just put them in their old barrels and whatever. Neutral. Yeah, neutral barrels, right. Well, what happened is we were a brand new winemaker. We didn't have any neutral barrels, so we went ahead and put the Cabernet Franc in all these new barrels. So I guess you might say we treated it with a little more respect than most people did. And lo and behold, when it got time to sort of taste it, we started saying, hey, this stuff tastes really good. You know, it's by itself. So we kind of thought, well, let's maybe make some just straight Cab Franc and bottle some Cab Franc that's straight. We add a little bit of Merlot to it at different years, and sometimes even put a little Cab in there. But mostly we put a little Merlot, and so we got into it, and people loved it. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that it gets riper in Washington State. It's a grape that gets a little riper than it does in France. It doesn't have as many green qualities if it's managed properly in the vineyard and grown properly. And when you treat it and use some new oak on it and use a nice balance of oak, I think you get a pretty nice product. So anyhow, that's my only story. It isn't a joke, but it's my only story about Cab Franc. And once again, it's been a pleasure being here and serving my wines. I hope you guys enjoyed them. I hope you guys are having a great time in the Northwest too. I know a lot of you are probably from all over, and hope you guys are having a great time. And I think there's one more wine to be served too, a Cabernet Sauvignon. Yeah. So, okay, quick. Oh, you didn't get it? Okay.
Sleep, we used to barrel ferment all our Chardonnay as a way of, well, utilizing the brand new barrel, the white, but also kind of tempering it for the 2-year stench of the red that are going to go into it afterwards. And I like that. I like the results we had down in California. We were then also doing malolactic and the whole bit in the California style. I don't do that. I just do the 6-8 week, usually somewhere in there, barrel fermentation, no malolactic, keep the natural acidity, and make a wine that shows a little bit of my California pedigree, but also is a great wine with oysters in the Northwest. So that's the first wine. There are tasting notes under your plates and prices, I think Denise mentioned. And if you have any questions, go for it. Otherwise,
what do you feel the main difference was coming from California to this area?
Well,
as a winemaker,
you really, actually back in '96, it was kind of like, you're a what? You know, you're a winemaker. You know, it used to be really kind of unique. I mean, I've made lots of friends. I mean,
it was a great
people
opening
like to be around me. Yeah, free wine and easy wine. But sense of camaraderie, extreme in temperatures, much more. I say one of the, California's got, phylloxera, and mold, mildew, and Pierce's disease, and more issues in terms of that they have to watch. We are, natural rootstock, really don't have any mold issues unless it's an extremely unmanaged situation. But we just get wiped out every 6-7 years, down to the ground, it's kind of like, so it's kind of a trade-off, but what that encompasses too is just kind of more of an extreme weather pattern in terms of growing grapes up here. So it's not so much a tedious hands-on viticulture program. It's more of a kind of just doing a few basics and seeing what the weather does, following the weather. Kind of makes you a farmer.
Yeah.
More.
Frost, you lose the whole season, or when you lose a crop, when you get a serious frost and you have to go down to the ground, you lose that year completely, or?
You do. The next year comes back full because you've got the whole root structure. You know, it could be a 10-year-old vineyard. You still have a 10-year-old root structure. And actually, my experience, I was here in '96 when we had that freeze, and in 2004 when we had that freeze. And my experience is the vintage after has always been really good. Even though you're training on 1-year fruit or 1-year canes back up to the cordon, it's usually really good stuff. We in '04 we outsourced a bit. We got a little fruit out of Oregon, Columbia Valley. Yeah, coming from Hedges, I used to crush 1,100 tons, so I've got connections all over the place. So when we had the freeze here, I just called, you know.
Do you feel that we're continuing to grow and that one day this area might be more like some of the areas in California, or do you think it's always going to be more rural or
What area in California? I'm sorry,
like
here.
Napa or Sonoma?
You know, I don't think so, because you know, I always when people say compare to California or Napa or Carnier, I said we don't have the maritime influence at all, and so it's really, we're kind of in our own little. It is a very. I mean, I think that's why Washington's come on the map so strongly in the last 10 years, because it is a really good area for growing grapes, and there's lots of it, and it used to be cheap. But also, it doesn't really. I don't. It doesn't fall into another pattern. It's not a. Our wines don't. Well, you might do a tasting tomorrow where they're going to try and compare Washington with Bordeaux or different areas, and I'm kind of going, well, we'll do all the comparisons you want, but I think this area is really unique in itself. You know, Syrah does exceptionally well, and all Appalachia's so big and diverse enough that you know you can grow a great Syrah in one area and a great Viognier in another area, or a Sauvignon Blanc and a Cabernet and a Merlot, and they all sort of. It's just a matter of, you know, what grows great on one side of the hill, you know, something else grows better on the other side of the hill. But anyway.
Make the food disappear.
Wait, lunch.